Yeah, let's continue to fleshing up on the budget 2018 that was finally signed into action last week by President Muhammadu Buhari. Part of that relates to the issue of infrastructure, and the president was bitter about how that budget was distorted by the National Assembly. So let's take a bit of a discussion into the road, rail, ports, and logistics infrastructure that are contained in that budget. Let's get this from what you call a recovery budget to a reflationary budget, recovery budget, to that of consolidation. Dr. Frank Ojadi, who is a faculty member at the Lagos Business School, is live here in the studios this morning. Thanks for having you here.
Thank you.
You have your mind and your work almost on a daily basis when it comes to logistics infrastructure. And that is one area that the current administration believes that, look, if we spend massively in this area, maybe in the next 1, 2, 3, 4 years from now, we will be able to have an economy that will deliver growth that will be sustainable, that will be able to create jobs. So the administration has been very aggressive in rolling out cross-country roads, new roads, existing roads, rails, ports, whatever, industrial parks, export processing zones, to make sure that, yes, we get the ERGP up. And now the National Assembly seems to have punched that with the budget. What's your take on what you've read so far in the news?
Well, from what we've seen so far, we've had a good understanding from the National Assembly, and also a very in-depth understanding as well from the President's side. And what comes to mind clearly is simply that this is supposed to be a joint process. The thing of formulating the budget and then letting it go around between the National Assembly and the Presidency. But it does appear that it hasn't gone that way properly. And what do I mean by this? What I mean by this is simply that, first, the input from the executive goes into formulating the budget. So you look at the concepts, look at the designs, and look at the costings, and so on. And then, of course, it's turned over to the National Assembly to look at. They, ideally, should be working with the National Planning and Budget Office to try to harmonize things. And any new issues or new projects that they introduce should also come to the view of the executive, because ultimately the executive would execute this budget. So in this context, therefore, any new project that comes in that doesn't really get to the notice of the executive, but just appears at the last end when the budget was just handed over, may probably create some kind of misunderstanding between them. But I still believe very strongly that going through the defense of the National Assembly with respect to the areas that they tweaked with, they are not, as I would say, extremely very significant that it may appear to really derail the budget. Okay,
great. Capital spending, 2.87 trillion. And then the largest ministerial beneficiary is the Ministry of Power Works and Housing, and just close to 700 billion. That's quite still significant if we can pump that much.
Yeah, it could, but then keep in mind that the only problem here is simply that how did the National Assembly really establish this amount of money? How were they able to conceptualize this project within this very short period of time? Were they also able to really design and do appropriate costing? So that is the area that naturally should be of importance. Now, if you focus on that, you may probably notice that the thing of increasing the budget or reducing it must be based on a certain framework that will enable them really be in tune with what has already gone into the budget. And I think that is an area that some effort, some focus must be laid on. Now, if you go the overall, looking at the summary of what has been yanked off and what perhaps has been added in, you will need to go down to the details to get to understand exactly the specific aspects that were really touched.
The President mentioned a number of roads and rail projects, of which the National Assembly tried to trim the numbers, and the President seemed very upset with that, because this is an administration of which he prides himself as spending aggressively on this logistics infrastructure, and he doesn't want to slow down, and doesn't want anything to slow him down in that regard. Now, so I understand the President's sentiments.
Yeah, it's very true, because he actually is on the driving seat.
Yes.
So he really is going to implement the budget. He's already promised the nation what he wants to do.
And he's the one everyone is going to blame.
That's right. So
or praise at the end of the day.
So clearly the question is, will he be able to implement something that some of the National Assembly had injected into the budget without his knowledge or without his consent? That becomes a critical issue at execution stage.
Those projects that were added, thousands of them by the National Assembly, are to be executed by the executive.
Yeah.
The National Assembly don't execute projects.
Yes.
Well, they say they execute projects at the constitution, at the base level, what you call the constituency level. But the executive will still be held responsible
for that.
For those critical infrastructure, whether it is in transport, in aviation, in roads, rail, inland waterways, seaports, whatever it is.
Which is why we keep saying that this has to be a harmonious process. Getting these guys to get to understand why those projects are there and all that. The National Assembly has already said that they did this purely to balance issues, so that every constituency or every every unit or every federal location and so on are reflected in the budget.
Yes.
I do not think that the president would have gone on to develop a budget that
without taking that into consideration.
Right. So that's an issue that we need to also keep in mind.
Yes.
So clearly what that then means is...
Because if you're building roads, rail, and whatever, it goes all the way to the local government.
Correct.
It doesn't start in Abuja, really.
Yeah. So if we look at the thing of creating jobs, the issue of the industrial parks, and then the export zones. The export zones that we call. These are all areas that are really geared towards job creation. Take a look at one of these the export zones, like the Lekki. That's
just behind your office, isn't it?
Yeah, Alhaji Dangote's projects there are naturally going to create quite a lot of job opportunities for Nigerians. And we're talking about this poverty line. The latest poverty. The 87 million people in the poverty line. These are all opportunities that could lead to that. Now, someone has also advanced the thinking that you could also create a lot of jobs in the agri sector. I keep wondering how that can happen. A farmer may perhaps be able to really grow his output without necessarily engaging more hands. If he uses technology to do that. If he rents labor, if he rents tractors and co from the government, you could still use same number of people to create more jobs. But to really farm and turn out higher productivity. But the real interest here in job creation will come from what happens to those things produced. How are they now going to be converted into different products? Therein comes in the opportunity to create jobs.
That's industrial zones. And the processing.
Correct. That's where these issues become very, very critical. And to that extent, the National Assembly has also claimed that they didn't quite give a huge cut that will actually create implementation.
Or made nonsense of it.